Hello everyone! This was a heavily requested topic over the last couple months. Before I can get into the Epic Store itself, I need to establish why I don't care about Steam or Steam's features as merits to compare to the Epic Store. The story begins long ago. Doom and Quake, two games that had robust modding communities, due to id Software developing and releasing modding tools on the internet, as well as id Software continuing to patch their games to fix bugs and improve. I was quite active at making maps and mods for both Doom and Quake. All of the maps and mods I made were exclusively for LAN parties and things of that nature, and have never existed online, and to my knowledge no longer exist anywhere. They were just for the immediate enjoyment of the people who came to the LAN party. When the original Half-Life came out using the Gold SRC engine, which was more or less the same engine as Quake 2, I found that my Worldcraft editor, that is the editor that Valve would later license and turn into the Hammer, the Worldcraft editor worked, meaning I could make Half-Life levels. And I had a lot of fun doing that, especially for Team Fortress Classic. I had been a veteran of the original Team Fortress for Quake. But more than just making maps, I played with dozens of Half-Life mods back in the day. I was knee-deep in a mod called Natural Selection, which pitted a team of FPS Marines led by an RTS-style commander against a team of FPS wall-crawling, vent-traveling aliens. Now, in the middle of this, when I was super excited for this particular mod and I was enjoying the hell out of it, Half-Life had a system at that time where whenever you tried to connect to a multiplayer session, it sent a code based on your CD key to the authentication server, which verified that no one else was using it before letting you log into the server. This was the WAN authentication service. Well, I was thoroughly enjoying Natural Selection when all of a sudden Half-Life, or should I say Valve, the company that created Half-Life, decided to go and axe the WAN authentication system they were using. They told everyone they'd have to migrate their CD keys over to a new platform called Steam. Steam was ugly, practically featureless. It was a military green mess. In the eyes of most gamers, there was no merit to using it at all. It was just a resource hog you had to have running on machines that, for their time, were rather limited resource-wise. Games and mods were constantly pushing the limits of older systems, and we'd make sure there was nothing running in the background to maximize our system resources and ensure that there was no stuttering or lag, and we wanted to get the highest possible frame rate. It wasn't like today where a game is only using maybe 8 gigabytes out of the 16 on my system. Now, Steam wasn't just a resource hog, it wasn't just the resource impact we worried about, but also the fact that connecting to the service, updating the program, that all took time. It would frequently hang or crash during the procedure, forcing us to start all over again. It could take 20 minutes on a fast connection to update Steam. Compounding this problem was the fact that high-speed internet wasn't very prevalent at the time, and a sizable chunk of the population was still on dial-up, either 56K or lower based on the speed of their modem. Imagine you sit down, you got 30 minutes to an hour before you need to go to sleep. So you wanted to play the game right now. Most users had to contend with Steam taking 20 to 40 minutes to log in, update, and then update the game. I never liked Steam. I begrudgingly accepted it because I had to. I know many people who swore off of Half-Life because they were forced to use Steam. And when EA introduced Orange Steam, and Ubisoft introduced their Ubisteam, and Blizzard introduced their Battle.Steam, it was reliving the same experience over and over, being forced to use yet another platform I didn't want to use. I went from, I can just open my game to the desktop, to, I have to open this annoying program and sign in order to play my game. The Epic Store, or as I call it, Epic Steam, is just another Steam running on the Steam pile of annoying launchers that you have to run before launching your games. It's a DRM system and a storefront combined that I could do without. Now, I admit, I like good old games, a DRM-free service, and I use GOG Galaxy to install them. But then I can close GOG Galaxy once the game is installed, and look, I don't have to open it again. Now, I know some people are going to shout at me, what about Steam friends and the Steam community? Those are all worthwhile and useful features. Well, before the Steam community, I had forums on my game of choice. In fact, I still have forums. To this day, I can go visit them. And in spite of Steam friends existing, I used IRC, and now I use Discord for my real-time chat. So while I have hundreds and hundreds of people on my Steam notifications waiting to add me to their friends list, guess what would happen if they did add me? I have pop-up notifications turned off, audio notifications turned off. It may be up to a week before I get around to responding to you. And by the time I look at your message, if it says something along the lines of, hey, hi, yo, can I ask you a question? Or pretty much anything without an actual discussion topic, I'm just going to close the window. Because if I responded to every single message, that's the only thing I would be doing all day, every day. So my perspective is obviously skewed. As someone who does not take advantage of the features Valve has to offer, while I have over 900 games on their platform, I do not see value in their platform beyond having physical discs, flash drive, external hard drives with those games on them. In short, all the games that I would be devastated if I lost, I've already made backups of. And yes, you can load those backups directly into Steam using offline mode, provided Steam hasn't received a magical signal saying, this game needs to update, at which point your backup is kind of worthless. At least GOG lets you archive older versions of games, whereas Steam just goes, okay, you have an older version, this game is now worthless to you. Yet another strike against Steam. Now I get it, some people get real value out of the Steam features that I just dismissed out of hand, but I don't, so I won't attribute that value to them. It's somewhat like when Steam decided to become an open platform and let everyone put their games on Steam. Well, all of those people who used to watch the new releases list on Steam like a hawk, you know, the tab that they hid behind 2 clicks because they didn't want you using it, they want you using their algorithm. Well, that tab became inundated with massive, massive amounts of content, and the people were unable to make heads or tails of what was coming out. Anyone who watched the Co-Optional podcast knows they used to actually read out all of the things that were coming out on Steam, which is pretty dumb now because anyone can put anything out for any reason. See, the thing is, the new releases tab was never a consideration for me. I knew when things were coming out, and not because they appeared on Steam, but because they were advertised to me, either in actual advertisements or by other people, by word of mouth, reviewers, and even by developers themselves contacting me. In short, when major reviewers like Jim Sterling or Sid Alpha were flipping their tops about Steam, I didn't see the value in Steam as a platform that they did. Nor did I ever wish to watch this list that was already at the time dubious, to say the least. And that's before the time of Steam Direct. Steam Direct just completely nullified it as a talking point. People got sick of hearing people talk about the new games, and so they faded into obscurity, much like everything else. Unless a game is very specific to your interests and the algorithm picks up on it, it's probably not going to be advertised to you. And really, it does fall to each developer, each publisher, to advertise their own products. Steam isn't going to magically make your game a success anymore. Not that it ever did, really. So now that we've established why I don't actually care about the Steam platform's features, we can address Epic.Steam. Now, Epic.Steam was established after Orange.Steam, Ubisteam, and Battle.Steam. As a result, Epic.Steam is very late to the party. They actually created Epic.Steam originally to host their own Unreal Engine storefront, to get up-and-coming developers to make transactions through their platform without having to give up 30% on another service like Steam. Now, because they've set up their own payment processing infrastructure already, something that is prohibitively expensive for most developers. Epic was able to leverage that to create their own platform. You can't just snap your fingers and make a platform like Steam appear. Even if you had the money to throw at it, software development takes time. I know some folks like, I'm going to have to say this name again, Jim Sterling, have likened the program to a website where just creating a shopping cart is as easy as using a prefab. But if you're going to do it yourself, and you're going to do it right, and you're going to make sure it adheres to all the rules that you've set up, then it takes time to program, test, and then deploy. Now, even if you had the money to throw at a dozen developers, software development does take time. And because Valve has their own team working on Steam at all times, it's impossible for them to ever catch up to Steam entirely. A newcomer to the market needs to bring something that no one else can offer. So Epic targeted developers and publishers, offering them a better split. Instead of taking the 30% that Valve currently does, Epic on Epic Steam is only going to take 12%. Now, in an ideal world, the video game publishers would reduce their overall price of the game and pass the savings on to the consumer. But this is not an ideal world. If the game sells for a market price of 40 to 60, then the game publishers can make more profit for themselves. And that's what they're going to do. But a revenue split isn't enough to get most developers on board. So for titles that were large enough to warrant this particular treatment, Epic Steam took these titles and guaranteed them a profit equivalent to a certain number of sales to make their game exclusive for a year. So even if their game didn't sell a single copy on Epic Steam, Epic would give them money as if it had sold a certain contractually obligated amount. Whilst the greater gaming community considered this to be scummy and underhanded, this sort of backroom deal goes on between developers and publishers all the time. Guaranteeing profits and buying out distribution rights is pretty much what every publisher does when they don't own the developer outright. This behavior is nothing new at all. However, Epic is doing this in order to be competitive. If you want to have this game, you're going to have to get it from Epic Steam, just like Blizzard, Ubisoft, and EA have been doing with their in-house titles. Except Epic isn't creating these titles, they're purchasing the rights to have them as exclusives. Whether this is good or not is irrelevant. It is just what is going on. And I absolutely am against someone telling a developer, you cannot publish it here. You must publish it on Steam. Telling a developer that would strip them of freedoms. Freedoms that I would want to have if I became a game developer. I mean, I've contributed in the past, but being a contributor is not the same thing as being in the trenches, putting your livelihood at stake in order to put out a product. I know people like to think if you put in time and effort, you're going to get a reward, but that isn't always true. And I looked at the logistics and just said, being the lead of a game development team isn't for me. I wouldn't mind being a writer or a consultant, provided I was paid for my time, of course. But getting back on track, at this point in time, because of all of the other services, I don't care where a game is or what extra features the storefront has. If a game is good and I want it, I will probably buy it. Or in the case of 99% of what's on the Epic Store, I'll opt not to care about it. But on principle, I don't like any of the Steams, even though I'll reluctantly use them. Steam has never been good in my eyes, nor has Orange Steam, Ubisteam, Battle.Steam, Bethesda.Steam, or Epic Steam. And we'll be talking about Bethesda.Steam pretty soon, because I get to say I was right about something. But back onto the topic of the Epic Store. They've been found to be harvesting your Steam data files. Yes, I called it the Epic Store because I actually need to differentiate it from Steam in this case. But the point is, harvesting data files that you haven't consented to, this behavior should not be encouraged and should be called out. Now, if anyone wants to boycott the platform because of this, I completely understand and respect them for that choice. My perspective is, however, skewed because aside from the fact that I profit from live streaming new releases, therefore the purchase of games is not only for the sake of enjoying the games, but also for profiting from them. That skews my perspective a little bit. But then skewing it the rest of the way is the fact that my wife and I have been allowing Google to harvest Gmail, Google Docs, and Google Drive for years. If there's anything Google could have learned to use against us, they've long since learned about it. So at this point, bring on the tracking cookies. See what kind of morally dubious Japanese cartoons we've looked at. I don't care. Epic can know my Steam library. Blizzard can scan my active processes while I play WoW to see that I'm not cheating. They've been doing that since vanilla. And all the other companies can do all the other things. And if you want to boycott those companies for the same reasons, do it. I will respect you for it. So back on topic, what does all of what I just said mean for us now? It depends on how many users adopt Epic Steam. The working theory Epic is using right now is that no matter what the user base thinks, if the platform has the games, the users will come for those games. No matter how much outrage or scandal or minor inconvenience having to split their libraries, they will come, at least the majority. You know, an occasional person will put in the comment section, "I will never use this." Those people are part of the vocal minority. The vocal minority is fairly small compared to the bulk who simply don't say anything and purchase it. That's the theory they're working under anyway. That the vast majority will come for the games first and foremost and will not care about minor things that piss everyone off and other people consider to be huge deals. Again, for games that I want to play on live streams or YouTube, you bet your butt I will be there picking them up on the Epic Store. I've never had illusions about a unified library, nor do Steam's extra features matter to me for reasons I've already mentioned. So it comes down to a simple question. Will Epic be able to garner enough of a user base to continue offering incentives for publishers to come on board? If they do, and they are successful, then Valve will have to rethink their own pricing model in order to compete. Good for business, good for games developers/publishers, irrelevant to users. At the end of the day, however, the power does lie with that user base, because without consumers, a business venture like this is just debt. Man-hours spent for no reason. Investments made without returns. No matter how many people want to be loyal to Steam or keep their library all in one place, we've seen enough of Blizzard, EA, and Ubisoft exclusives to conclude that these larger companies get away with it. So the question is, will the Fortnite money last long enough for Epic to build themselves a games catalog to allow themselves to become a competitor to Steam? Or will the users not adopt the platform and Epic will be left with debts? While I personally do not care about the platform's features or the fact that it's not Steam, what do you guys think? As someone who has absolutely no loyalty to Steam or any of the other Steams out there, I want to hear what you guys have to say on the matter. Are you going to pick up Borderlands 3 or The Outer Worlds on Epic Steam? Or are you not, and why? As for me, I'm probably going to pick up Borderlands 3. I'm probably going to pick up The Outer Worlds. But I'm not going to like having Epic Steam, just like I'm not going to like original Steam. So, with all of those questions asked, I think I'm done with this topic. Well, except for the fact that Fallout 76 is coming on Steam. But, well, I told you so on that topic. I'll be reminding everyone in a future video why I told you all so. Because it's important not to forget the past. And the past is important when calculating Bethesda's trajectory into the future. Oh boy. Thank y'all for watching. Check the links on screen for more content, and I will see y'all next time.